Once again, it's Robert Clifford. I am the founder and chair of Clifford Law Offices. We're an aviation law firm in addition to handling all sorts of other complex litigation. I currently serve as the lead counsel for all the families against Boeing for the upcoming trial on April 7 here in the Federal District Court in Chicago for the crash of ET-302 in Ethiopia on March 10, 2019. I currently represent 7 passenger families from the terrible tragedy of American Airlines Flight 5342 on January 29 in Washington, D.C. at Reagan National. I was the first to file, my clients were the first to file the claim against the United States government, asserting the claims against both the U.S. Army and the FAA. Under federal law, you simply can't walk across the street and file a lawsuit against the U.S. government or one of its agencies. You have to tell them you're coming by way of a notice. It's called a Form 95. You file that notice, and then the government has 6 months in which to either A, grant your claim or deny your claim. Oftentimes, they just don't even respond to it, but the 6-month clock runs, and then you can take action only in federal court. So typically, we will hear from the government on 5 months, 29 days, and they'll deny the claim, or we won't hear from them at all. And then we will file the lawsuit. Lawsuits are already prepared against the FAA and against the U.S. Army in connection with the crash. The FAA, of course, is the regulatory body for aviation in America. And the NTSB, however, recently came out, as you know, with some very strong recommendations about restricting air traffic, military air traffic in particular at Reagan National. But, and they told us a little bit more about, the operations of the helicopter and the airplane on that fateful night. But that's not the entire story. This story is going to evolve. And one of the things that early on I was alerted to was the fact that the airlines have known for a very long time that the congestion at this airport is untenable. And that it wasn't a question of if a crash like this would ever occur. It really was a question of when. And given the information that the NTSB board chair released last week, we now have confirmation of that. Over 15,000, that's over just a short multi-year period of these possible near misses is just unacceptable. And so what's going to happen here, and there are a lot of unknowns at the moment, to be frank, because you have to file the case in federal court against the government, whether it's the FAA or the Army. But the case against the airlines on the commercial side, or Sikorsky, if there is a case against Sikorsky, or the avionics people, if there is one there as well, that can and likely will be filed in a state court. And so a question is going to become, well, how do you put those two together, if at all, ever? That's going to be one of the variables that's unknown over time. And there are issues, of the 60 passengers, plus, of course, the 4 crew, there are issues about where they were from, and in both here in the United States and in foreign nations, such as Canada, the UK, I think I heard one France, I know I've heard Russia. But what law is going to ultimately control these damage claims? It's not necessarily a uniform law. In the Boeing crash, for an example, that I'm about to try, where the passengers in that crash were from 35 different nations around the world. Early on, we crafted an agreement between the families in Boeing that one law on damages would apply, and that was the law of the state of Illinois. Here, I don't know that such an agreement could ever be reached. Maybe it will be talked about at one point in time down the line. But certainly what I would expect to unfold, as I am told is unfolding, is that more and more families are filing these Form 95s against the government. We know the government is receiving them because we have been in touch with counsel from DOJ, the Department of Justice, who is telling us, acknowledging receipt of the claim forms, and so we're in active discussions with them about that process. And at some juncture, the courts will favor putting all of these cases together as a consolidated case. They are not class action. This is not a class action. There's a distinction between the two. Class action meaning the claim is the same for all of us. A consolidated claim is where why and how this tragedy occurred is identical for all of the families, but what is different is each individualized damage claim, and these families are entitled to individualized damage assessments of their losses and the harms that were caused to their families.